Welcome to the Deep Dive. If you're tuning in, you want to get smart, fast on topics that really matter. And today, we're doing just that with negotiation. But maybe not negotiation as you usually think of it.
Yeah, we're not talking about, winning or losing some kind of battle.
Exactly. It's more about finding solutions that, well, actually work. For everyone, we've been digging into the work from the founders of the Harvard Negotiation Project.
The folks behind getting to a classic.
Right. And their whole approach really challenges that competitive view.
It does. They have this great point. The minute you start asking who's winning, you're probably already off track.
Yeah, you're missing the point. It's not about beating the other person.
It's about understanding what's really driving them. What are their needs? What are your needs?
Okay, so let's illustrate that. Think about two people in a library, right?
Okay.
One wants the window open, needs fresh air. The other wants it shut, maybe worried about papers blowing around, or a draft.
That classic standoff.
Yeah, and the typical compromise is what? Open it a crack.
Which probably satisfies nobody, really.
Exactly, because it focuses on the positions open versus closed.
Right, and that traps you. The real gold is in the interests underneath.
The why.
The why. Fresh air for one, protecting papers for the other. Once you know that,
then maybe you can open a different window or a door.
Precisely. Suddenly there are options that meet both underlying needs, maybe even fully, not just some halfway measure.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another one. Sharing a cake. How do you do it fairly?
The cake problem.
Yeah.
A few people just start cutting. Someone always feels like they got the smaller piece, right?
Always. So how do you avoid that?
This is where a fair standard comes in beautifully. Simple process. One person cuts the cake, but the other person gets to choose their piece first.
So the cutter has a massive incentive to make the slices as equal as possible.
Exactly. It takes the argument out of it.
Wow.
It's not about your desire versus mine. It's about this agreed-upon fair process. That's the elegance of objective criteria.
Okay, and one more quick one, the orange. Two kids fighting over the last orange.
Right. And the parent, trying to be fair, just cuts it in half, 50-50. Seems logical.
But what if one kid only wanted the peel, maybe for baking, and the other just wanted the fruit to eat?
Yeah. The parent focused on the position, I want the orange, and split that.
Missing the interests entirely.
Totally. Both kids end up throwing away the part the other one needed if the parent had just asked why.
They could have given the whole peel to one and the whole fruit to the other. Win-win.
A perfect win-win. It shows how sometimes these seemingly opposed positions actually hide needs that are, well, perfectly compatible. You just have to uncover them.
Okay, so uncovering those interests is clearly paramount. Let's make that step one then. How do we actively do that?
Right. Step one, focus on interests, not positions. We've sort of talked around it, but making it explicit is key. Remember the library.
Open versus closed positions.
Fresh air versus protecting documents' interest.
Got it. Positions are the what, interests are the why. So how do we reliably get to the why?
Well, the simplest way is often just asking why, and not just once. Keep probing gently. Why is that important to you? What problem does that solve for you?
Peel the onion layers back.
Exactly. And crucially, try to genuinely see it from their side. What pressures are they under? What are their concerns?
Put yourself in their shoes.
Because when someone feels like you actually get where they're coming from, they listen better. It builds rapport.
That definitely rings true. You feel heard, you're more willing to hear them out.
Absolutely. But it's not just about understanding them. You also have to be clear about your interests.
Don't expect them to be mind readers.
No, be explicit. Here's what I'm trying to achieve, and here's why it matters. And then, to make it concrete, ask yourself this. Okay, if they say yes tomorrow, what specifically do I want them to agree to? What do I want them to do?
So turning that understanding of interests into an actual actionable request.
Precisely.
Wow.
Connects the why to a potential what.
Okay, so we've dug down, we understand the interest, maybe we've shared ours, but what if they still seem, well, opposed? Our whys just don't line up easily.
Yeah, that happens, and that's where step 2 comes in. Use fair standards or objective criteria.
Objective criteria, like what?
Think about negotiating rent, maybe. You want lower, the landlord wants higher. Just arguing about feelings of fairness doesn't get you far.
Right. Stalemate.
But if you bring in external benchmarks.
Like market rates for similar apartments in the area, or maybe documented repair costs if things aren't up to snuff.
Exactly. Those are objective criteria. The cake cutting method, that's a fair process standard. Other examples could be legal requirements, scientific judgments, expert opinions, industry practices.
Anything external and impartial that both sides can potentially agree is a valid measure.
Yes, it shifts the conversation. It's no longer just your demand versus their demand. It becomes, okay, let's look at what the market data suggests, or what do the safety regulations require here?
It depersonalizes it.
It really does. Let's take a technical example. Say you're building a house, and there's a disagreement with the contractor about how deep the foundations need to be.
Okay. They say X, you think it needs to be Y.
Instead of just arguing, you could say, okay, let's look at the local building codes. What do the government specifications say for this type of soil or this earthquake risks zone?
Using those codes as the fair standard.
Precisely. You're grounding the discussion in something objective. And ideally, you try and agree on which standards are relevant before you get deep into the specific disagreement.
Proactive. Identify the yardsticks first. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so step 1, interests, not positions. Step 2, use fair standards. What's next?
Step 3 is where the creativity comes in. Invent options for mutual gain.
Back to the orange. Not just splitting it, but finding a way both kids get everything they really wanted.
Exactly. Don't just assume the pie is fixed and you have to fight over slices. Think about how you can make the pie bigger or find value that wasn't obvious at first.
So expanding the possibilities beyond just compromise. How do we actually do that? Brainstorming.
Yes, but structured brainstorming. The absolute key is to separate the act of generating ideas from the act of evaluating them.
Don't shoot ideas down as they come up.
Definitely not. In the generating phase, anything goes. While ideas are welcome, the goal is quantity. Get a bunch of possibilities on the table first.
Okay. Any tips for making that brainstorming session work well?
Yeah, a few things help. Maybe involve a small group, perhaps people with different perspectives. Sometimes even changing the physical environment helps get out of the usual conference room. Keep it informal, and be really clear about the specific problem you're trying to generate options for.
And then you evaluate.
Then you sift through, see what's promising, refine things, maybe combine ideas.
You know, what's interesting is you mentioned earlier how differences, like in the orange example, can actually be the source of good solutions.
That's a crucial mindset shift. We often see differences as the problem, the thing causing conflict.
Yeah, that's my default probably.
Yeah, but often, those very differences in needs, priorities, resources, timelines, that's where the potential for trade-offs and creative solutions lies. The fact the kids wanted different parts of the orange was the key, if they'd both wanted only the juice.
Then splitting it might have been the only way.
Yeah.
Less satisfying for both.
Right. So look for those differences and ask, how can we use these differences to create more value overall?
That's powerful. Okay, so interests, fair standards, inventing options. Feels like we have the substance covered. What's the final piece?
The final, and arguably one of the trickiest, is step 4. Separate the people from the problem.
The human element.
Exactly. Negotiation isn't just logic puzzles, it's people with egos, emotions, different perceptions, communication issues.
Things can get heated, personal.
They can. So the core idea here is to see yourselves, you and the other party, as working together to solve a shared problem, even if your interests conflict. You're attacking the problem, not each other.
Be soft on the person, hard on the problem. I've heard that phrase.
That's the mantra. It's crucial. The danger zones are being soft on both. You preserve the relationship but don't solve the problem, or being hard on both.
Which tanks the relationship and makes solving the problem way harder.
Exactly. So how do you do it? Consciously work to respect the other person, even when you disagree strongly. Acknowledge their points. Maybe even find things to genuinely appreciate about their effort or perspective.
Even small things.
Yes. Try to understand their perception. Remember, they see the world differently. Be aware of your own emotions, frustration, anger, and their potential impact. Don't react defensively if you can help it.
So manage the people dynamics actively.
Actively. And, research backs this up strongly. Building even a small amount of rapport before the negotiation starts.
So just chatting for a few minutes?
Yeah, arriving early, staying a bit late, finding some common ground unrelated to the negotiation topic. Studies show it can increase the chances of a successful, mutually agreeable outcome by 25, even 30%.
Wow, just by establishing a bit of a human connection first.
It makes a huge difference in setting a collaborative tone.
Okay, these 4 steps, interests, standards, options, people, problem, separation, that's a really solid framework. But let's be real. Sometimes people, well, they don't play fair. What about dirty tactics? or power imbalances.
Absolutely crucial to address because, yeah, not everyone is aiming for a principled negotiation. Let's talk tactics first.
Okay, the sneaky stuff.
Often, the best defense against a tactic like, say, deliberate deception or psychological pressure or extreme demands is simply recognizing it.
Just identifying it takes away some of its power.
A lot of its power, usually, because then you're not reacting emotionally to it. You see it as a tactic, and you can even bring it up, but neutrally.
How so? Without accusing them.
Right. Say you suspect they're doing the good cop, bad cop routine. Instead of saying you're playing games, you could say something like, I'm noticing you two seem to have different perspectives on this point. Could we clarify the main goal here?
Address the dynamic or the process rather than their intentions.
Exactly. Or if they put you in a stressful physical situation, like making you sit with the sun in your eyes.
Which actually happens.
It does. You could just say, would you mind if we adjusted the seating? The sun's making it a bit hard for me to focus. You address the problem, the sun, without accusing them of using the sun against you. Naming the tactic or the problematic behavior often neutralizes it.
Okay, that makes sense. What about when you just feel outgunned?
Mm-hmm.
Like they have all the power, all the leverage.
That's where your B10A comes in, your lifeline.
B10A, best alternative to a negotiated agreement.
Yes. What will you do if you don't reach a deal with this person? The better your BA10A, the more power you have.
Because you're less desperate for this specific deal.
Precisely. If you're negotiating a job offer, but you already have another decent offer in your pocket, or you're happy in your current job, that's a strong BA10A. You can negotiate harder for what you want in this offer.
But if this is the only prospect you have,
then your BTNA is weak, and you have less leverage. So the key is to develop your BTNA before you negotiate. Brainstorm alternatives. Improve them if you can. Know what your walkaway point is.
so it's not just about the negotiation itself, but about preparing your alternatives outside of it.
Absolutely critical preparation. Now, what if they don't use tactics, but they just attack you personally? Dismiss your ideas, question your competence.
Yeah, that feels tough. Hard not to get defensive.
It is. This is where they talk about a negotiation jujitsu.
Jiu-jitsu, like using their force against them.
Sort of.
Mhm.
Instead of meeting force with force, arguing back, defending yourself directly, you sidestep their attack and redirect it back to the substance, back to the problem.
Okay, how did that work?
3 main techniques. First, don't reject their position outright. Look behind it. Ask why. Treat their position as a possible option and explore the interest that led them there. Help me understand why you feel that's the best approach.
So, channeling the attack into exploration.
Yes. Second, if they just keep attacking your ideas, shooting everything down, turn it around. Ask for their advice. Okay, clearly you see flaws here. If you were in my position, facing my constraints and goals, what would you do?
That forces them to engage with your side of the problem.
It can. And third, instead of defending your idea when they criticize it, invite more criticism. Ask what's wrong with my reasoning here, or what concerns you most about this proposal.
So you're not defending, you're gathering information about their underlying objections.
Exactly. You're using their attack to learn more about their interests and refine potential solutions. It's about redirecting, not resisting directly.
Those are really practical strategies for dealing with the tough stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Now I want to shift gears slightly and mention our sponsor, Stonefly, especially since we're talking about things like standards and security.
Makes sense. Stonefly really operates at that intersection of high standards and robust solutions for data. They're deep into SAN, NAS, S3 object storage, but also backup, disaster recovery, cloud integration. And increasingly, AI and advanced security are core to what they do.
Data security is just non-negotiable these days, isn't it?
Absolutely non-negotiable. And Stonefly has some really advanced ways of handling it. Things like immutable snapshots, basically data records you can't change, crucial against ransomware.
Right, prevents attackers from encrypting your backups.
Exactly. Plus strong AES 256 encryption, both for data sitting still and data moving across networks. They do sophisticated replication too for redundancy, and smart features like intelligent tiering to manage costs, flash caching for speed, and specific ransomware protection built in.
That sounds comprehensive. You mentioned immutable and air gap. They have a patent on that.
They do. It's a patented approach to creating storage and backups that are both unchangeable and physically or logically isolated from the main network, the air gap. That's a huge defense layer. They also have tech like compass mirroring for high availability and a single interface to manage everything, even across different sites.
And they've gotten recognition for this.
Yeah, DCIG, a well-respected analyst firm, ranked them in the top 5 storage companies across SAN, NAS, and object storage. That's pretty impressive, hitting the top tier in all 3 categories.
Definitely. So for listeners maybe in IT or running businesses where data is critical, Stonefly sounds like a serious player to consider. Are they hiring too?
They are. They mentioned over 100 openings right now, fast-growing company. Roles in software development, tech support, full stack, digital media, customer service, a pretty wide range.
Okay, and the contact for that?
For job inquiries, it's jobs@stonefly.com.
Got it. And if a business wants to explore Stonefly's solutions for, say, improving their data protection or scaling their storage?
They emphasize not just the tech, but also affordable pricing and strong support, both sales and technical. They can help with safeguarding data, expanding capacity, boosting performance, modernizing infrastructure, all that good stuff.
And the contact for that?
For product and service info, it's sales@stonefly.com, and their main website is just stonefly.com. Lots more detail there, including a page showing some of their customers.
Okay, great. And I think they have a special offer running this month.
They do, yeah. 2 options, actually. One is getting immutable and air-gapped backup, starting at just $10, which is incredibly accessible.
Wow, okay.
The other is a pretty substantial appliance, a 70-terabyte backup and disaster recovery unit. It's expandable up to 4 petabytes, which is massive. And it includes those critical air-gapped and immutable features. It's compatible with major backup software like Veeam, Rubrik, Commvault, and has AI-powered ransomware protection with object lockdown.
And the special price for that?
That appliance is being offered for $700 right now, which for that capacity and feature set seems very aggressive.
Definitely sounds like something worth checking out if you're in the market. So sales@stonefly.com for details on those offers.
That's the one.
Perfect. Okay, bringing it back to negotiation for our wrap-up, there's a little story that kind of ties this all together nicely.
Oh, yeah.
It's about an American dad and his son playing Frisbee in Hyde Park, London, way back in, 1964. Frisbees were new then.
Okay.
So people gather around watching, and after a bit, this British guy comes up and asks the father, "Excuse me, but who's winning?"
That's perfect. It just perfectly captures that competitive frame we talked about at the start.
Exactly. The dad was probably just enjoying throwing a Frisbee with his son. Like in a good negotiation or a good relationship, if you're asking who's winning,
Yeah.
you're missing the whole point.
The goal isn't to win, it's to find that mutual satisfaction, to solve the problem together.
Right. So let's quickly recap the big takeaways from this deep dive.
Yes.
Those 4 key principles from the Harvard method.
Okay. 1. Focus on interests, not positions. Get to the underlying why.
2. Use fair standards, objective criteria to guide the discussion.
3. Invent options for mutual gain. Expand the pie, don't just slice it.
And 4. Separate the people from the problem. Be soft on them, hard on the issues.
If you start applying those, even just focusing on 1 or 2, you really can have those aha moments and see better outcomes.
In all sorts of situations, not just big formal deals.
Absolutely. And just a reminder, if data protection, storage, or scaling your IT is on your mind, check out our sponsor at stonefly.com or contact sales@stonefly.com.
And for those tech career opportunities, jobs@stonefly.com.
Right.
Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with. Think about the last time you had a disagreement. Could be anything, work, home, whatever. Now, looking back, what might have changed if you had consciously tried to uncover the interests behind each person's stance, even just asking why a couple more times?
It's a powerful exercise.
It is. Because mastering these skills isn't just about getting better deals. It's really about building stronger relationships, communicating more effectively, and just understanding people better in every part of life.
Well said.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.